Next man up, 1025, the game, Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. It is a TD Thursday here on Next Man Up. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Lots to get to on the program today. We got TD for all 3 hours, and of course, it has been a busy week with the two-tone blue. Brian Callahan fired on Monday, Mike McCoy named as the interim head coach. And guess who's coming to town on Sunday? Mike Vrabel. He will be back in Nissan Stadium at noon on Sunday to make his return to the Music City. TD, how's it going? Obviously been a busy week for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy week, but you got to love the adrenaline rush when news happens and everything that you're asked to do. So it's been great, man. No complaints. I actually got to see one of my favorite artists on Tuesday, and I'm going to make sure Parker plays some of his music. Raphael Sadiq from Tony. And he has a song, That's All I Ask of You. And there's a part where he sings, I Love You, Deja. And it was from the movie Higher Learning. Well, when I was in high school, that movie came out, and I fell in love with that song. And it was Tyra Banks and Omar Epps.
Okay.
It was a John Singleton movie. And Tyra Banks, her name was Deja in the movie. So in high school, I told myself if I ever have a daughter, her name is going to be Deja. So guess what? I got 4 daughters. They're all named Deja. No, I'm just kidding. My oldest one.
We can't tell them apart.
My oldest one, her name is Deja. So
I love it.
Feeling good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you just never know. There's always somebody out there performing in this city. It's like
always.
If you have a favorite artist and you live in Nashville, chances are they're going to play here at some point. And Monday for you woke up in Vegas, right? And then, 7:30 press conference probably wasn't the exact thing you wanted to hear.
Man, so the presser was originally at 2:30. Normally, they have the pressers at 11:30. And so I made sure, like, when I booked my flight, I had a hell flight. So I had, at 5 a.m. because I wanted to make sure I was back in time for that.
Right.
So, 3 a.m. I woke up that morning in Vegas. And I took an Uber, whatever, and then got in, and then I'm thinking it was at 2:30, and then the Callahan news broke, and okay, well, let me get to the facility because who knows when it's going to be, and I'm there, and they're like, after 2 hours, they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be later, and then they're like, it's going to be later, 7:30. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, I saw the tweets of there is going to be a press conference today. We just don't know when it's going to be. And strange timeline of Callahan. The announcement comes out right around 1 o'clock. Then around 4, you find out it's going to be Mike McCoy as the interim coach. And then, of course, Brinker and Borgonzi did the press conference at 7:30. TD, just, your thoughts on the decision to pull the plug on Brian Callahan after 23 games. It's something that we've talked about where it felt like it was coming at some point. We just didn't know when. Obviously, you can look at this week in particular and say maybe she wanted to avoid the embarrassment of Brian Callahan getting, taken to school by Mike Vrabel on Sunday. Yeah. But at some point, you saw this was going to happen. Obviously, you hated for Brian Callahan, never want to see anybody lose their jobs. There's families involved with all this, but it did feel like a change was coming at some point.
You could just feel it coming. Even after the win is, I don't know the best word to describe the win over the Cardinals, but whatever. I guess you could call it
lucky,
improbable, fortunate. Yeah. So even after that, you knew that sometime it was coming. I really felt that it would be next weekend, right? After this game, I felt it would be then because the Patriots are just playing extremely well.
Yeah.
But it just feels like this move was done to avoid Mike Vrabel being able to end his replacement's tenure.
Don't give him the satisfaction of that.
But you still gave it to him by trying to, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it shows that he's still living rent-free up there.
It's like a defensive end. Like, you didn't get the sack, but you got the pressure to force the interception. Right. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. And, it just didn't go well for Brian Callahan here. The biggest indictment was the way the 2 quarterbacks played that he was entrusted with. Mm-hmm. Will Levis, Cam Ward, both at separate times have been thought of as the future of this franchise, and neither of them worked out under his tutelage.
Yeah.
And when you're brought in to be the quarterback guru, that typically isn't going to end well if you can't get the most out of those quarterbacks. With Mike McCoy stepping in, what have you seen from him so far? I really liked his opening press conference on Tuesday, where you could just tell he had a little bit more command, I guess I would say. Like, you could tell that he is ready to go be a leader for this group, and he's not focused on being the offensive guy or calling plays. Obviously, Bo Hardigree's going to still do that, but he wants to go be a leader of this team, and he said he wants to go try and win as many football games as he can. And I like the message to the fans that he had in his opening statement of, hey, like, this isn't a lame duck year. We're going to go out there and we're going to do everything we can to try and win some football games the rest of the season.
Yeah, you could tell that he gets it. I say that. You could definitely tell. And I think when you look at this, he's clearly a more experienced coach, right? So he knows better than Callahan at this point, how to address different things. And he seems very convicted, convinced in his process. So I do like that. The tempo of practice, he said, was good. So that's a positive. We know some of the I actually like how he responded as well when I asked him about Jeffrey Simmons' comments. And of course, you have to fold Michael Pittman's comments into there too. So
Right.
like, hey man, like one of your opponents earlier this year said you guys were flat pregame. Jeffrey Simmons said you were flat in practice. What's up, man?
Raiders coach said that's the worst team he's seen in 25 years.
You know what I mean? So that being said, it's interesting how he answered that. And I like how he pointed right to Jeff. And he was like, he's the guy, he's the example, of how the way he plays and how he's there for the offense when they're coming off the field. And then he mentioned how one of the players, it ended up being Jeffrey Simmons, stopped practice and wanted to start over. So my thing is this: if a player does that, where's the coach? Like, why isn't the coach doing that?
Yes.
Because that's typical. I've never seen a player say, hey, man, let's start over before a coach does.
Right.
It'd be different like if the coach and then the player says it. But so those were interesting comments. I think his opening presser was good. He was solid yesterday also. So we'll see how this thing rolls going forward.
Yeah, I thought Sunday, you make a good point about Jeffrey Simmons. Sunday after the game, when he brought up that the team was flat and they had their worst practice of the year on Thursday, and Cam Ward was asked about communication, and he said there's no issues with player-to-player communication, which, implies that there's an issue elsewhere. That was kind of the writing on the wall a little bit there with Brian Callahan. And I mentioned to you before we came on air, I thought the comments yesterday, and Paul Kaharski wrote a story about this from Peter Skoronski, Chigakonko, and I believe James Williams might have said something to the effect of, yeah, you see the way we've been playing, it makes sense that it was time for a change, which, no one's going to come out and say, yeah, Brian Callahan deserved to be fired. But to say those things of like, yeah, we were kind of ready for something to change based on how we were performing, I think that's pretty telling of the feelings in that locker room.
Yeah, and look, I talked to Amani Hooker, and he said, he's like, man, they got rid, because I asked him if he took it personally, and he said they got rid of the coach, and if SHIT doesn't start to change, they're going to get rid of the players, and
right.
He said that, he ended that comment by saying, like, we got to do what we can and go out and effing win. And I mean, he's right. So these guys, they understand, like, it's a results oriented business. The results weren't happening. It's inevitable. So it's not groundbreaking that these guys understand that they're in the business, and it's just one of those, it is what it is type thing.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 10 o'clock is your chance to talk to TD. You can text or call. Get your questions in for Turron Davenport. Again, we'll do that at 10. Andrew Allegretta from Vanderbilt Football will join us for his weekly visit at 11 to preview a top 20 matchup on West End this weekend. LSU and Vandy as the Commodores come off their bye. 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, joined by Turron Davenport in studio today, alongside Parker Kelly here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. That was Cam Ward yesterday, asked about whether the firing of Brian Callahan was necessary. Thought it was a good answer from Cam Ward. And again, kind of beating around the bush a little bit of like, yeah, change is needed, but obviously you hate to see somebody lose their job. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 the game. There you go.
That's it. Raphael Sadiq, man. You hear it? He said, I really love you, Deja.
It's, TD loves that song so much, the movie that, he named his first daughter after. So there you go. TD, the next 3 months could go a lot of different ways. I don't know exactly if any of those ways have the Titans winning a lot of football games, but you're kind of in a holding pattern right now where a lot of these coaches aren't going to be around next year. The front office is starting to vet these candidates for who might be the best option for Cam Ward and this team moving forward. What needs to happen over these final 11 weeks to make you feel good about the progress of this team? Because again, like, odds are Mike McCoy is not going to be the permanent head coach for this team.
Right.
It's possible. The last 3 interim head coaches in franchise history have become the permanent head coach, but it's unlikely. But you do have to still develop the quarterback and make sure he's in a good spot heading into year 2 when you do get somebody in here to be the guy who can develop him.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing right now. The biggest thing is the continued development of Cam Ward. And you have other players, Roger McCreary. Can he be traded and bring you value? Or do you decide that he is the solid nickel corner that he is and deserving of a contract? Those are decisions that you have to make. You have other guys like Amani Hooker told me, like, man, like we know we got to put good. He said other. He didn't say play, but we got to put good play on tape, and because the rest of the league is watching. Everybody is on audition, from the coaches to the players,
right?
Because if stuff goes well for, let's say, the defense, right? Let's say the defense starts balling out. Well, the next coach that comes in is going to be like, yeah, maybe I should keep Denard Wilson for continuity on that side of the ball. So you got different things that will factor in.
Yeah, I mean, this is everybody's job, and I thought Mike McCoy said that well in his press conference of like, how do you keep everybody bought in? And it's like, hey, this is the NFL. All these guys, coaches, players get paid a lot of money to come in and do their jobs. I guess it's the ownership of it is the question. Like, starting this year, I think everybody on that offensive staff took ownership of trying to make Cam Ward the best quarterback possible. But you wonder, a lot of these guys may think, Nick Holtz likely not going to be around for Cam Ward next year. Do they take that same ownership in trying to develop the young quarterback? Yeah. And again, that's still the most important thing. Is Cam Ward going to put up rookie of the year numbers under Mike McCoy? Unlikely, but can you get him developing in the right direction? Because right now it feels like he's been going backwards week to week. Can you get him to start improving where at the end of the year, you're like, all right, maybe it wasn't the best rookie season for Cam Ward, but there's a lot that we can work with, and he's taken a step forward that he can parlay into a big second year when he takes his first snaps.
And that's the big thing. Right now, it's all about foundation building. That's what it is. They're building a foundation. They're trying to – now, McCoy – he's building for what he hopes to be an opportunity to be the head coach. I thought it was interesting, Chad Brinker, because I asked him, I don't know, somehow they didn't seem to understand what I was asking about who's going to be in charge of making the next selection. But he very quickly redirected it to, hey, all of the resources right now are going to be poured into giving Mike McCoy every chance possible to win this game. I thought it was very good how he reeled it back in. Look, you know what I was asking you, Chad. Come on. I thought
I laughed out loud at that that sequence because I was like, how could TD have made it any plainer? And then I loved, is it you? Is it you? Is it Amy? Who is choosing the next head coach?
You know what I mean? But I do like how he redirected it to what's immediately in front. Like that's the right way to approach it. Obviously, you got to have an eye on the future, but what's in front of you, you still got games that you got to at least try to win.
Right. And everybody has their opinions on Chad Brinker. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, and I wonder where the accountability for his part in the struggles is going to come. But clearly, he has Amy's ear. And is it wrong to say, TD, that it feels like this is a reset for this team and that they're going to put Brinker, Borgonzi, and whoever the next head coach is on the same timeline instead of the constant rotating blame game of, all right, it's the GM's fault this year. Next year, it's the head coach. This year, it's the quarterback. Like, try and put everybody on the same timeline where it's, say, Chad, Mike, new head coach, Cam Ward. All of you need to be on the same timeline. And if you all fail, all of you are gone.
Yeah, that's what you would like. But they kind of threw that out the window when they didn't
clean house last year. Yeah.
And it was everything was Rand's fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't think you're going to be able to get that unless you completely reset. So now it's like, okay, well, let me try to line things up and have them all on the same page, and we'll see how that works.
Yeah, it's I guess you look at it as who picked the quarterback is always going to be the question, because that's what you always look at with these head coaches. It's like, oh, he doesn't have his guy. Mm-hmm. And even last year, like Brian Callahan says, oh, Will Levis is a big reason why I took this job. And that was supposed to be his guy. But then after 1 year, it's like, oh, let's get him Cam Ward. That can be his guy. And it obviously didn't work out. So, you know, the timelines have not been great for the Titans lately. Again, that's how you get to 4 major figureheads of the franchise getting fired in 3.5 years. But, you know, there's nothing you can do about it now. And they're trying to reset and find somebody new. With Cam Ward, Mike McCoy has talked about making changes to this offense to fit it more to what Cam Ward does best. How do you see that playing out? Where, you know, I look at the first 5 play calls from Sunday's game, and I just wonder what the team was thinking when you're coming out of that Arizona game where you finally saw your young quarterback find a rhythm, and you go 3 obvious run formations and run it on the first drive, and then back-to-back screens to start off the second drive. Like, can they at least make the offense make sense for the young quarterback?
I have no clue why they started out in that. Your quarterback ended on a high note. He was hot. Why you throw water on the fire?
Right.
Like, you trying to put the fire out by running like that.
They go. We talked about it last week of they went 3 tight end set to start off the game. And we said, like, oh, it'd be great if they run play action out of that because they've been running that early in games and just running the football. And nope, run into the line with Tony Pollard.
I don't.
Second play, bring in Corey Levin as a fullback and run it up the middle. Like it blows my mind that is the way they decided to scheme it up after what Cam Ward did in that fourth quarter against Arizona.
And those are the types of things that make you say, like what is really going on over there? Like, I'm confused what's going on with that. So, and then, you know, they continue to work the screen, or let's say it this way, the horizontal passing game, because when I asked Callahan about that, he said, you know, the screens are kind of, some aren't.
He called it what? Run solution?
How you categorize it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I called it run solution also. So regardless, it wasn't working. So pack it up, throw it away.
That's what Corey and I were talking about yesterday, of how many screens have they run this year and how many of them have been successful. Like maybe 5% of the screens you run have actually worked out. How many times has Cam Ward gotten on the run, rolling out of the pocket with a crosser coming across his face and put it on the money for 15 yards? It's been like 3 times and it works every time, but they don't run it.
Van Jefferson had a big gain in that game on that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, use that a little more, especially when you got Max Crosby having his way on one side of the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Roll away from him, please.
Roll away from him. Get up out of there, man. Protect your asset, Cam Ward.
Yeah, and J.C. Latham did not have a great day. We'll talk about him a little later on in this first hour. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Chris on the text line asks, what do you think about Mike McCoy if he goes 10-7? Highly unlikely, but if the guy does that, how can you not keep him if he does? Yeah, if Mike McCoy goes, what would that be, 9-2 down the stretch? Yes, Mike McCoy will be the head coach of the Titans next year. Yeah. I find that very unlikely, but yeah, I mean, there's a scenario where Mike McCoy ends up being the head coach, because if he does show a ton of improvement with Cam Ward, it would be hard to just say, you know what, we think we can do better somewhere else. But that remains to be seen. Like, you've got to go out and prove that you can develop this quarterback over the next 11 weeks.
Right.
I still would lean outside hire because, you know, when you've got the whole world of coaching in front of you, why are you just focusing in on the one guy? But again, yeah, I mean, even if they went 6-5 down the stretch, and Cam Ward looks really good. I think there's a good chance that he ends up sticking around. It's not impossible. I'd call it unlikely, though. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Get your questions in for TD. Again, your chance to talk to TD coming up at 10 o'clock, so you can text or call there. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. DVD with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circa Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall this Monday prior to the Monday Night Football games. Monday night matchups are the Buccaneers and Lions and the Texans and Seahawks. When we come back, the Titans have some time to start vetting new candidates, but it's not too early to start looking at who might be out there. We'll get TD's thoughts on who he might like as the next head coach of the Titans coming up next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. That was Cam Ward yesterday, who was asked what he wants in the next head coach. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. TD, similarly to the comments from Peter Skoronski about time for a change, I thought that was a little bit telling too, because a lot of the criticism of Brian Callahan was that top to bottom, maybe he wasn't the right CEO leader of this team. He was brought in as the offensive guy, and I think maybe he focused more on play calling than being the head coach for a lot of his tenure. And maybe Cam Ward was ready for a change from that, for somebody who can go be a leader of men and know how to be the leader of the locker room as a whole, not just the offense.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing, is being an overall orchestrator and CEO of the team. That was Callahan's downfall. I don't think that's necessarily a shot that Cam Ward is taking.
Right. I don't think it was intentional.
Yeah, I think he's just saying, like, that's what I want as a coach. But just like Chad Brinker, when asked about the next coach, he did a very good job. Okay, let's reel this thing back in. We got games to play between now and then. And he said, I'm with Mike McCoy, so I thought that was pretty good on his part. That young man, he's mature beyond his years. Like, say what you want about the 55% completion percentage, the 26 QBR and all of that. That's another discussion, but he is mature beyond his years.
We'll talk about that completion percentage later in the show as well. But yes, I agree. I think he doesn't talk like a rookie. And the results on the field are way more important than anything he says, or, he can be the best locker room guy out there. If he doesn't perform on the field, it doesn't matter. But you do like that maturity and the leadership that he does bring to the locker room. So Cam Ward asked what qualities he wants in a head coach. Of the guys who are being thrown out there, who stands out to you, TD, for who could end up being the next head coach of the Titans? I know there's a lot of guys with experience that are being put out there. I like Mike McCarthy. I think that would be my pick. Arthur Smith being mentioned, Matt Nagy, Cliff Kingsbury. If you're going coordinator, Joe Brady is the hot name out there, who's the offensive coordinator of the Bills. Who stands out to you as who could be at the top of the list for the Titans in January when they make this decision?
Well, I don't think either Cliff Kingsbury or Joe Brady would come here. They're going to be very hot commodities. Miami is probably going to be a more attractive option for them. Mike McCarthy, I'll say, and I understand you like him, but those Dallas teams were a lot more talented than this team here.
Yeah.
And they didn't do much.
He had 3 straight 12-win seasons.
I'm talking about in the
playoffs. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, with that talent, you better win double-digit games.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Mike McCarthy, to me, the jury is still out on him. I think you look at some of these other – he's got to be a candidate, but, I think a guy like Matt Nagy would probably be of interest to them. Obviously, the ties to Borgonzi and Kansas City.
Right.
That's something. Just because of the Green Bay ties. What's he was a head coach at Boston College. He's now their DC.
Hafley.
Yeah.
Jeff Hafley.
Jeff Hafley. I'm really and I know the Raiders are not playing well. I know. But Patrick Graham would be intriguing.
Yeah.
The Raiders defensive coordinator. He would be intriguing just because of his leadership qualities, and he's paid his dues, right? So you got him, and then bring in a guy like a Mike McDaniel or somebody offensively. Speaking of that, Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel, those are some that I would think of. For me, though, if they could get a Kevin Stefanski, that would be very interesting to me.
Yep.
If he should become available, that would be very interesting.
I'll save this question, actually. I was going to there's a question. I'll save it for Talk to TD coming up at 10. But Mike McCarthy, I do understand the concerns there of like, hey, the team's not that talented. What can he actually bring to the table? I like the fact that, hey, he has been a winning head coach before. And guess when he came to Green Bay? Aaron Rodgers' second season. So, not making a one-for-one comparison there, but he's been there before for a first-round quarterback who has all the talent in the world, but maybe needs some fine-tuning, and he's been able to turn them into a very successful quarterback. Arthur Smith, also a name that's been thrown out there.
Coach Art,
and I do like Arthur Smith because he's a guy who has head coaching experience. even though maybe it didn't work out the way he wanted to in Atlanta. But he also is familiar with Amy. He's familiar with this organization. And I mean, he was here for what, like 10, 15 years under 4 different head coaches. Like, I think it would be a good fit for Arthur Smith. And he's a guy that I think you would trust with Cam Ward.
Yeah, you would definitely trust him. And guess what was one of the staples of his offense? That play action strike route. You know what I mean? So then you go out and you get a guy like Jeremy Bernard, a big sturdy receiver that could catch and run, and now you got somebody that you could feature on those, and you got Io Manor that you could do everything with, and DK, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think if I had to make a list of my top candidates, I think I would put McCarthy at the top. I mean, just a more proven head coach is more my thought process. But I think Art would be right there, number 2. Like, either of those, I would be happy with. I understand that you're maybe going lower ceiling when you take a guy who's been a head coach and been fired before. The higher ceiling picks would be a Joe Brady or who's the DC with the Chargers who's gotten hot around here. I'm blanking on
Chargers DC.
Minter, Jesse Minter.
Oh, Jesse Minter. Yeah,
he's been hot on the market. So like those are the high ceiling guys who, they haven't been a head coach before, but maybe they turn into, for Joe Brady, maybe they turn into a Sean McVay or a Kyle Shanahan or something like that. But for this team right now and the issues that they have, I think you need somebody who's been there before and can come in and can immediately command the locker room. I lean offensive just so you don't have to worry about Cam Ward losing his play caller. But if you did go with a Robert Saleh or Brian Flores and were able to bring in an experienced offensive coordinator, you mentioned Mike McDaniel, I think that could be a solid option too. I do lean offensive just so you have, hey, this is the guy. He is going to be the one that develops our young quarterback.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I think the key is whoever it is, they got to have the leadership, the ability to take the bull by the horns and say, look, man.
The pendulum's got to swing back.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to go full Mike Vrabel, but you got to find a happy medium between Callahan and Vrabel.
Yeah.
Where you still get that leadership, but maybe it's not in the same tone as the way Mike Vrabel would put it out there.
Yeah. I think Arthur Smith brings that.
I agree. I think if you're looking for maybe a happy medium of the candidates that we discuss, Arthur Smith kind of fits right down the middle of, he's got head coaching experience, but Mike McCarthy brings a little bit more baggage, I guess, because he is a little bit older. He's gotten 2 chances in the league. But either one I'd be happy with. I agree, though, like Cliff Kingsbury, I don't think is coming here. Joe Brady's not coming here.
But don't sleep on Matt Nagy, because he brings that too. He has that degree of jerk to him. I don't know how he connects with players and all that, because I haven't talked to anybody that played for him, et cetera. But he did find some success initially in Chicago.
Yes.
Obviously, you can only do too much with Mitch Trubisky as the guy, but still, I think he found some success.
Right. Yeah. Were they the number 2 seed, number 3 seed his first year? Or second year maybe with Trubisky.
That was the year I think
it was the double doink.
The double doink to the Eagles.
Yep. And I believe that's the last time the Bears made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
That one right there that defeated them.
Yes.
Broke them.
Yeah, the double doink. And things fell apart pretty quickly for Matt Nagy there, but I do think at this point with what he's been able to do as the offensive coordinator back in Kansas City, maybe he deserves another chance. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you have thoughts. And again, talk to TD coming up at 10 o'clock. So get ready, get your questions in. You can text or call our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Heading to Nissan Stadium for the Titans game on Sunday. Stop by John Bon Jovi's before and pregame with 102.5 The Game. JBJ's has the best food on Broadway, cold beer and cocktails, and stunning skyline views, including 2 epic rooftops. Pregame show is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Circa Sportsbook, Kentucky. When we come back, we'll wrap up hour number 1. Big week for the 2024 draft class, we'll say. J.C. Latham, there was some talk about last Thursday's practice, had a rough game on Sunday against Max Crosby. Tavondre Sweat had his practice window reopened. We'll talk about those guys coming up next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. This Sunday, the NFL game of the week is the Commanders and the Cowboys at 3:25 on 94.9 The Fan. The NFL game of the week is presented by Circus Sportsbook Kentucky and Massaro in 12 South. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Finishing up hour number one, and at the top of the hour, your chance to talk to TD, 615-737-1025. So get your texts and calls in now. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. TD, I wanted to check in on the draft class of 2024, and we will exclude Jarvis Brownlee from this, who was the highest graded defender on the Jets this weekend, by the way. Tough one. But The top 2 picks in the 2024 draft class, J.C. Latham, T'Vondre Sweat, both have had their issues this year. T'Vondre Sweat back at practice yesterday. They opened his window to return from IR. Based on what he said, it seems like he is hoping to play on Sunday, but we heard that heading into week 3 against the Colts too before he went on IR later that week. So I guess it's wait and see if we're going to get T'Vondre Sweat back on the field.
Yeah, he really thought he was going to play that week. I remember talking to him, and it, unprovoked, he was like, "I'm playing."
Yeah, he said, "I'll be out there on Sunday."
I'll be out there. So it didn't happen. I think it's always tough when you get a big man like that and you have an ankle, knee, back type of injury. It's always a tough situation. But then on top of that, the conditioning. Now, he said that that's something that he worked on.
Yeah, he said it was on the bike.
Conditioning on the bike. I would actually really crack up if I got to see that, a big T'Vondre Sweat on the bike. But hey, man, you do what you got to do. I wonder if he did any water treadmill or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember when Delaney Walker had his stuff. So they have a treadmill that's in the water, and they run on that. And I remember Delaney, that was one of the keys to him getting back on the field. Obviously, he never got back to himself. But nevertheless, the conditioning is a big thing. And you can't replicate game situations. So it's going to be one of those things where they're going to kind of stretch it out as you go along. Okay, big fella, can you handle it? But one thing he did say about Jeffrey Simmons is how he's playing so well. He said, I'm going to get a lot of one-on-ones.
Yes, he said he's looking forward to it, getting some one-on-ones with Jeffrey Simmons playing some of his best football of his career, maybe the best football of his career. J.C. Latham has been the headline this week, and a lot of it coming from last Thursday. It came out this week that there was a confrontation on the practice field where Jeffrey Simmons stopped practice, basically said to J.C. Latham, I've been watching you for the last 10 plays, and this is not good enough. We need more from you. You said it spilled over into the locker room after, and Simmons was talking with Latham about what he needs to be better at. And then J.C. Latham goes out and has a tough game on Sunday against Max Crosby. Got to put that in there too, but had a tough game on Sunday. Are you concerned about J.C. Latham moving forward?
No. You look at the hip injury. If I'm not mistaken, it's the right hip, right? And regardless, it's a hip injury, right? And an offensive lineman, you know what I mean? Your kick step back, and you got to kick step back really far on Max Crosby, because first of all, Max Crosby lining up like a slot corner, right? And then he's coming so hard off the edge, you got to really get that step back. So your push off is the left. So if it's the left hip, that's bad. But then your landing and your reset is your right. So either way, you're putting a lot of stuff on that hip. I'm not making an excuse. And JC wasn't making one either after that game. I love that he said, hey, they drafted me to block guys like that. I didn't do it. But at the same time, I think you got to understand a guy coming back from injury, after that much time and getting out there and being put against that, it's not a good situation.
Yeah, and Corey and I talked yesterday about last year, all the talk about J.C. Latham was first guy in, last guy out. They have to pull him off the practice field. And, he played for Nick Saban, and Saban raves about J.C. Latham. It's hard to imagine that he went from that to loafing on the practice field and in games in 1 year. So you hope it was just a one-off. But those are two guys, Latham and Sweat, that they really have to be foundational pieces for you moving forward.
Foundation.
I mean, you took them at 7 and 38 in last year's draft. If you're going to rebuild this roster and be competitive in the next couple of years, those guys have to be a big part of it. And so far, we've seen a game and a half from Latham and just 1 game from Sweat. The rest of the season is really important for those two guys.
It's really important. And it's important for Sweat, too, because, look, I'm not going to pull any punches. A big part of him getting to this point, being on the Titans, Rand Carthon, Anthony Robinson.
Yeah.
Those guys kind of took Sweat on as their own project, and they had him on a program, kept him focused, and kept everything in order. With those guys being gone, now it's up to Sweat. He has to show, look, man, those guys, they set the foundation, they set the tone. I'm carrying the torch, and I can handle my own business. That's not to say that the player development part with the Titans now is bad, because it's a work in progress, and they're building something there. But Sweat has to show what worked last year with me. Okay, cool. I can make it work my own this year.
And Keandre Coburn, his Texas guy, not on the team anymore. That also could play a factor. I listened to his whole availability in the locker room yesterday, and I did like the answer about, Jeffrey Simmons, and you could see the smile on his face. Like, he is excited to get back out on the field. But he is a funny, the kind of just like man of few words.
You're always like,
take it day by day.
Big fella, come on.
Talk to my mom.
Give me a little bit more.
I love he said, I've got a mom. That was what he said over and over and over about how he got through the last couple of weeks and how frustrated he was. So T'Vondre Sweat, we've said it all year long, and mostly in the offseason, about how the Titans have talked about their defensive line. They want pressure from the interior. And Jeffrey Simmons has given that. If T'Vondre Sweat can be the guy you hope he is, that changes the way this defense can play, especially with the way some of these edge guys have played the last couple of weeks. Man. I mean, Draymond Jones took a step forward this week. Jihad Ward, when he's not lining up in the neutral zone, has been great. It's tough to see Femi Oladejo have to go on the IR. But this defensive line has gone from a relative weakness heading into the year to they were making some big plays against the Raiders on Sunday.
Now, granted, the Raiders O-line is
beat
up, but still, hey, you fight and you play who's in front of you, right? That's all you could do. And they did they did a solid job.
Yeah. And, the penalties took away what could have been an even better game for that defensive line. You had the illegal contact on Jalen Armour-Davis that took away a sack, which I get it. You're not allowed to bump him off his route 15 yards down the field, but it felt like a weak call that didn't have anything to do with the play. Yeah. And then Draymond Jones, basically a 4-point penalty on third down, sacking Geno Smith, but grabbing the face mask. Ashton Genty scores the next play. So, it's up and down with with this edge group, but it was good to see them at least win some matchups on Sunday, because that's been an issue of like, hey, Femi was making plays when he was unblocked early in the season, but he finally actually threw aside a blocker and made a play 5 yards in the backfield on Sunday.
He was whooping some tails. And that's, like you said, it's good to see your guys whoop the other man in front of them, whoop their behind.
I don't know. I mean? Did you go back and watch the broadcast copy?
No.
I've been talking about this all week because I thought it was hilarious. Jonathan Vilma was talking about Femi Oladejo like he was Lawrence Taylor. Like, first play that he made, was like a 2-yard loss. And he's like, Jonathan, you've been really impressed with Femi Oladejo. And it's like, oh, yeah, this guy's a player out there. And I'm like, what are you watching that I'm not watching? And then when he got hurt, Jonathan Vilma's like, this is a massive loss for the Tennessee Titans. I'm like, all right, like, let's pump the brakes just a little bit. He's starting to show flashes, and it sucks that he has to miss at least 4 games with a fracture in his leg.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. You hate to see it, but you knew just from how he went down, like, you knew it was something. So
yeah, and he's out for at least the next 4 games, which is important to know because there is a bye week in there, not 4 weeks, 4 games. So the next time he could come back, I believe, would be November 16th. No, November 23rd, I think is actually right. We'll have to look through it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. It is your chance to talk to TD. You can text or call. We'd love to hear from you. Get your questions in for Turron Davenport. And again, we're giving you 30 minutes here. This doesn't have to be all Titan stuff. I expect this week it probably will be. But get your questions in, 615-737-1025. We will get to them next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up. You're on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game, second hour. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Jake Lyman, joined in studio by ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly behind the glass. And as always, at 10 o'clock on a Thursday, it is your chance to talk to TD. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Text or call with any questions that you have for Turron Davenport. Let's start here on our text line, 1180 TD. I want to nip this one in the bud because I've been seeing stuff about Will Levis, and we need to stop this. He says, honest question for TD. If you can get Kevin Stefanski, but he wants to give Levis a real shot, do you do it?
Nope.
First of all, Kevin Stefanski would not say that because and also, Will Levis, I'll put it out there right now. There is a 0% chance Will Levis ever takes another snap in a Titans uniform on this stint with the Titans. Maybe years down the road he'll return or something.
Find his way back
right
home.
I don't know, but like he is not going to be on the Titans roster next year. It's just not going to happen.
That's very, very unlikely that he's on the roster next year. They're going to deal him somewhere. You know what though? It's funny. It's kind of poetic justice, right? That Cam Ward struggled the way he did under Brian Callahan.
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, well, maybe Levis wasn't that bad. So now maybe his value might go from a 6th round pick to a 4th
right
round
maybe
pick.
you get a little more for him, but it is funny the revisionist history from Titans fans of like, could Cam Ward be in a quarterback battle with Will Levis next year? I'm like, guys, like I understand that Brian Callahan clearly has not been a good coach at developing quarterbacks, but go watch Will Levis in that Bengals game again last year. Like that was his 20th start. You give young quarterbacks 20 starts. That's the old rule, and it was not good enough. Right. And he is not going to be the quarterback here. Anyway, just wanted to nip that one in the bud real quick. 615-737-1025. Get your questions in for Turron Davenport. Kevin asks, I've heard and read about all coaching candidates from McCarthy to Gruden to Nagy to Joe Brady. Is there a name out there, TD, who you have thought about, but you haven't heard anyone else mention so far?
Patrick Graham.
Okay. So Graham. You did mention Patrick Graham earlier.
He's one that I've thought about just when you talk about needing a leader of men. Like that's a guy that could do it. That's a guy. And I know from talking to some of the people on the Raiders staff that have been really impressed with just his leadership qualities.
And I think a lot of Titans fans might be hesitant to hire a defensive guy who's a first-time head coach, because that's kind of the opposite of the pool that Titans fans are looking in right now. Just to play devil's advocate here, the Seahawks hired Mike Macdonald, who was a first-time defensive coach from the Ravens, and look at what their offense is doing right now. So
yeah, I think, Mike Macdonald, he cut his teeth. He got some time there with Baltimore. So it's just, he saw the way it's supposed to be done.
Ben from Cumberland City, who Ben has had some issues with this show the last couple of weeks. He says, y'all need to keep Levis out your mouth. Guys, Will Levis, I wish him the best wherever he goes next.
Keep Levis out our mouth. But somebody asked about
right.
him. So
somebody asked.
You want me to just ignore
Ben
from wherever?
We're just trying to nip it in the bud that Will Levis is not going to be in a quarterback competition with Cam Ward next year. I wish him the best wherever he goes next, but he's not playing here next year.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
0020. I did want to get to this at some point today. TD, what are your thoughts? They've made the fire of Brian Callahan official. Offense isn't playing very well. Tyler Lockett not playing very well. Your thoughts on catching the strep, bringing Xavier Restrepo up to play with Cam Ward?
I mean, I wouldn't be against it at some point. What you got to lose? You know what I mean? You got nothing to lose. Might as well see what he could do. I mean, and I asked about him. So we have an off the record type of conversation. I asked about Restrepo. So I mean, look, they're clearly watching. I'm not going to, because off the record, I'm not going to say what was said, but they're clearly aware of him and taking note of him. So
I had said that I wasn't ready to catch the strep early in the season. I think at this point, he deserves a shot. What can it hurt to give him a look? And saying a look doesn't mean he immediately steps in as your starting slot receiver.
Right.
But like, give him a couple chances and see what he can do with his old running mate in Cam Ward. So I'm not against it. New York Doug, he has been a staple on this program lately.
Appreciate you, Doug.
Tell TD about your little pie in the face wager with Jackson Dart versus Cam Ward and ask if he wants in. He says, already buying one for you. Might as well buy two. New York Doug has said that, he will wager a pie in the face that Dart is better than Ward. So like, if it works out that like Cam Ward gets cut next year and Jackson Dart's an MVP, I'll go pie in the face. We talked about this before we came on air. Like, all of the Ward versus Dart stuff is so premature. Ward has played 6 games. Dart has played 3. Let's let it play out a little bit.
Yeah, let it play out. I mean, let's not just jump to rash decisions. New York Doug, I get it. I'm assuming New York.
Right. I'm sure he's a Giants fan.
It's promising. It's promising right now. Jackson Dart, he's playing a solid football. He has the look. This is an organization that they want. Like, he's the opposite of Daniel Jones. You know what I mean? Like swagger and all that good stuff. So we'll see. But I think it's just way, way, way too early for that.
Right. Quarterbacks are evaluated over the long term. Like, you can't look at Jackson Dart, who, he's 2-1. The one loss is to the Saints, and he threw 2 picks in that game. And like, he's not throwing for 300 yards in these games. I'm not trying. Jackson Dart has looked good. And if you're looking at what they have done so far, yes, Jackson Dart has looked better than Cam Ward. But if you're looking at the traits and the ability to be a quarterback long-term with a high ceiling, that's why Cam Ward went number 1. That's why the Giants tried to go get Cam Ward number 1. We've had this conversation every single day, and people still want to bring up Dart versus Ward.
It's too early.
Let's just take a break.
It's too early.
Call in December and let's have a discussion about it. How about that? Like, let's see where these guys are in December when they each have double-digit starts under their belt, and let's see who's looking better at that point. Maybe it's still Dart. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would bet on Ward to be the better quarterback long-term. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Man, I didn't think we had this many people who just like think Will Levis should be the quarterback again. We've got like 3 people who are texting in. Robert, you have no idea what Levis is as a quarterback. God, we saw him for 20 games. I don't understand what more you want to see. Like, yes, the arm talent is there, but you can't put it all on Brian Callahan. Will Levis had plenty of his own faults last year as well.
Look, the arm talent is there. Like, I was one of the ones that believed that Levis could develop into a Ryan Tannehill caliber quarterback. So it's like just on the borderline of franchise enough to win you some games, but I didn't think that he would push you over the top, right?
Right.
And so here's the thing. Going with Cam Ward and moving on from Will Levis isn't necessarily a move that means that Will Levis is trash. It's just, okay, you invested a number 1 pick. I understand a number 2, a second round pick.
Right.
But you invested a number 1 pick in Cam. And so he has to be the guy going forward. You have to give him the opportunity to be the guy, and you got to see what you could recoup from Levis from a previous regime. You see what I'm saying? So it's just the optics of it. It looks like you're giving up on him, but it's really just the business side of it.
Right. I mean, you drafted Cam Ward number 1 overall. I'll go back to the analogy. I love this one. And, Kevin asking, do you have a better backup quarterback than Levis? Doesn't matter. You're not inviting your ex to the wedding. Like, next year, guess why Will Levis is not going to be on the team next year? Because of you people who are texting in right now saying this, because guess what? Cam Ward, if he's iffy through the rest of the year and week 1, he comes out with Will Levis as his backup and throws a pick on the first drive, there are going to be some of you who are going to be calling for Levis to go in. And they don't want that for their young quarterback, having to look over his shoulder at the ex who was supposed to be the guy before. And Will Levis doesn't want that. He knows it's over for him here. He wants a fresh start somewhere else. Exactly. That's why he's not around the team right now.
Yeah. Like, he was supposed to be here at some point in the next month or so. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly why he had the surgery. Boom. Look, that way he'll pass whatever physical and anything. And there you have it.
I did not think we were going to get into Will Levis today, but here we are. 615-737-1025.
The quarterback position will spark all types of conversation.
So funny. 615-737-1025. 1541 says something I think we can all agree on. I do miss the Will Levis memes. Those were funny. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Continue to get your questions in for TD. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, we've got a couple on the phone lines. We'll get to you. I also have a question for TD that I've been wondering over the past couple of days. We'll get to that next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday. Parker spinning it back there.
That right there, that's an American classic.
Was this a request from you, or is this all Parker?
It was a request from me.
It was a request. Most of these are going to be requests from TD.
Yeah, he's not quite on. I haven't gotten him to the Tony Raphael Sadiq.
I'm not there yet. I'll get there though. I'll get there.
That's music that you just grew. That's grown folk music right there. You ever see the movie Boys in the Hood?
I've not. I
don't want to answer this question because I know I'm about to get roasted by TD for this.
So there's a love scene, and John Singleton, the producer, he went to Raphael Sadiq and he was like, "I need a song." They're both from Cali. Singleton's from LA, Sadiq's from Oakland. So I need a song, and Raphael Sadiq made that song in one day. Just Me and You, and that's a classic song. It's one of the best. You ask any hip hop head or R&B head about Just Me and You, they'll tell you, man, that's one of the best ever.
I love it.
It make me smile every time I hear it, man. Every time I hear it, but I love that song, man.
It's always a great music day when TD is in here. It always is.
The vibes have to be on 1,000.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHigh.com. Josh has been waiting. Josh, thanks for calling in. What you got for us today?
Jake, thanks for letting me on the line. Long-time listener, multiple-time caller. Hoping that you could weigh in on one of the masters of the take game, Skip Bayless. He recently unleashed a tweet with a 28-minute video saying there's no way Travis Hunter should have chosen to be baptized on the morning of the game. He is losing interest. He is mentally checking out on the Jags. Two-part question. Hoping you can weigh in on Travis Hunter, and also what would your thoughts be if Cam Ward chose to get baptized on the day of the game? Would he be mentally checking out on the Titans? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for the call, Josh. It's a good question. I did see that from Skip Bayless. Guys do this across all sports. Like I saw a Nashville Sounds player last year got baptized before a game. Like it's a meaningful moment for these guys. Like I had no problem with that.
Man, when Jesus calls, you got to pick up the phone.
I'd say he has his priorities in line.
Right. Like I Skip Bayless, there's a reason he's kind of fallen into the background of hot takes, and that one's a special one from Skip Bayless right there, saying that Travis Hunter is losing interest in the game because he's getting baptized before.
It just, for me, how could you say this without like actually having a conversation with the young man?
Right, like, just throwing it out there.
Box score speculating type of stuff, and I don't like it. But it's this industry has gone so much in the direction of hot takes and foolishness, right? As opposed to, man, just tell me what's going on.
Right.
Tell me what
an actual nuanced conversation. Yeah. And what was the second part? If Cam Ward got baptized on the day of the game, is he losing focus?
I'd be there. No, I'd be there to support him.
Right. I feel like that's something the team would support, the fans would support. It's that is a crazy. I just don't know how you get from point A to point B on that if you're Skip Bayless. Like, how does seeing the player get baptized before the game be like, yeah, his head's not in the game?
28 minutes on that?
I did see the video yesterday, and I was going to watch it because I just wanted to hear what he was going to say. And I saw it was 28 minutes. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Skip Bayless, he is a Vandy fan. He does put out there my Commodores, and Vandy taking on LSU this week. We'll have Andrew Allegretta on coming up at 11 o'clock.
Question off the when does the Vandy women's season start? Because I still gotta get my tickets.
So there is a exhibition in Memphis coming up a week from Monday, and then a week after that we're in Paris playing a game, and then a week after that is the first home game, November 10th.
November 10th. All right, I'm going to be there. I gotta go see. You know what I mean? I gotta go see the young girl.
I'm excited.
Blakes,
yeah,
man.
Michaela. She's
preseason All-American.
Yep, first team All SEC, reigning SEC Freshman of the Year. All six named an All-American by 6 different outlets last year. So she is a special player. I think teams can be pretty fun to watch this year. So first home game November 10th against Furman. So
okay,
but I'll be on the air.
She'll drop 30.
Minimum. We'll see how much she plays in the fourth quarter. I will be on the air coming up next Monday, the 27th. Vandy has an exhibition against Memphis in the Hoops for St. Jude Classic out there at FedEx Forum. And then, off to Paris after that to play Cal in the opener.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You
So
have
that'll
to
be
get
fun.
some nice coffee and
right.
beignets in the morning.
Croissant.
You got croissant.
If you need any good food, Rex, I got you.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Parker
you.
was just there over the summer.
I got
you. Last year?
Yeah, July.
Yeah. So there we go.
To the beginning of August.
Right. So we'll have to get some recommendations from Parker. Back to your questions. It is your time. Talk to TD, 615-737-1025. TD, why is Jim Schwartz not getting mentioned high on the coaching list? He's familiar with the Titans organization. He took over a horrible 0-16 team in Detroit, and each of the first 3 years the team got better. We know he'll bring a legit defense and toughness to the team.
That's one right there where if there's one thing about Cleveland, that defense has been good. Now, obviously, Myles Garrett has been a big part of it, but hey, I like that mention. I like that mention a lot. I covered him for 2 years in Philly, and he's a guy. Players love him, and you're always going to be prepared on defense. Now, offense, is one of the things where he's going to have to bring somebody in. I don't know who he would bring in, but I do like that mention. That is a very, very good mention, a very good one.
Yeah, I like Jim Schwartz because you talk about Arthur Smith having familiarity with the organization. Of course, Jim Schwartz does too. Now, that was pre-Amy Adams Strunk taking over. That was the Bud Adams years before he left. But still, a familiarity with the Adams family and how they run things and how this organization is run. So I could get behind that with Jim Schwartz.
I mean, he was back. He was here as a defensive assistant in the good years. You know what I mean? So,
and you wonder who he would bring in as an offensive coordinator, because that's obviously just as important. If you're bringing in a defensive-minded head coach, you got to find somebody who can run the offense. But maybe that's a marriage that you set up with Jim Schwartz, Mike McDaniel, which I know Mike McDaniel is going to be the one guy everybody brings up. Because
I don't know that one will work. Because McDaniel seemed too quirky for Jim Schwartz.
Maybe that's
Jim
not
Schwartz is not about that.
That doesn't mesh very much.
Yeah, that's one thing about Jim Schwartz. I would say, like he's not for the foolishness. He is not for the foolishness. He loves the Baltimore Orioles, by the way. I remember all the time. Jim Palmer he loves Jim Palmer, and I remember all the time he would talk about how the defensive philosophy, you have to have more than one pitch, and he'd be like, like Jim Palmer. I'd be like, come on.
I love it.
Get out of here with that Orioles stuff.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Continuing to take your questions for TD. I actually had a question for you, TD. I saw the article, Jeremy Fowler, Dan Graziano at ESPN. They put out their kind of what are you hearing articles every week. They put out some trade options for the Titans, and the guys that they mentioned, Arden Key, Roger McCreary, and Chigakonkwo. Anybody else out there that you think the Titans may be looking to move? And they also said they believe Jeffrey Simmons is not going to be on the table. Thoughts on that heading into the trade deadline?
I don't think Jeffrey Simmons will be on the table. I have heard that McQuarrie is being shopped, and I don't understand it. You know what I mean? I do not understand it. And it's interesting because on Talking with TD, we have Mike Reese, ESPN NFL Nation Patriots reporter. And he talked about Justin Hamilton, who's the cornerbacks coach for the Patriots. And he was talking to him about nickel corners, and he was like, I worked with Kenny Moore last year in Indianapolis, but one guy, Roger McCreary. Don't forget about Roger McCreary. Like, he's respected around the league. Obviously, it hasn't been as good as you probably would hope, but I still think he's a guy that you have him play. You're going to get consistent play, and you don't have to worry about that position.
I agree. It becomes a question of how do you value him if you're the Titans, and do you think you want to and can sign him to an extension? Because, if Roger McCreary just doesn't want to come back and wants to hit the open market, you could franchise tag him, but that feels a little bit steep for a nickel-only cornerback. So I don't know what their plan is. The fact that they didn't sign him to an extension before the season makes me think that they're willing to part ways with him. Mm-hmm. What do you get back for Roger McCreary? Probably not a day 2 pick, but maybe a 4, maybe a 5 for Roger McCreary. I think you could say the same for Arden Key, Chigakonkwo, maybe more like 5 or 6. But the Titans have said they want 30 picks over 3 years and 12 in the top 100. So the way to do that, trading back, obviously, is a big way. But also, if you've got these expiring contracts, like a Chig, like a McCreary, like an Arden Key, you might be able to add some value at the trade deadline.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, those are some options, but it's just like, what are you going to get with that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're not getting second-round picks for any of those guys.
So I think, and here's the thing: if I'm not mistaken, Arden Key is on the final year of his contract.
Yes.
Chig, final. McCreary, yeah. So these are guys that could be gone next year.
Right.
You know,
so and if you don't see them, if you don't see them as a part of your future, you might as well get something while you can. Yeah. Thoughts on Tony Pollard as a possible trade chip?
Tony Pollard is just one of.
I don't see it happening, but I have seen it mentioned.
He's just one of those guys where it's like, you got to keep him around. You got it. And I understand he may have some value and stuff, but you got to keep it. Tajay Spears with his injury history. Tony Pollard, like, that's one of the few reliable things you have on this team. Okay, I know one thing's for sure, two's for certain. 20 is going to run behind his pads. And he's not the biggest back, but he's going to run hard. You know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't.
Right. And it's a culture thing too. Like, he's one of your veterans. He's one of the guys who has actually played pretty well this season. Like, I don't know what message that sends if you send him away, especially he does still have another year on his contract. Whether they keep him around for another year, that remains to be seen. 615-737-1025. Another great edition of Talk to TD. And let's finish it up with one more caller. Kenny the mailman, our good friend, is on the line. Kenny, appreciate you calling in. What you got for us this morning?
Great morning to you. Before I go off, I need to find out if this quote is true and then come back and tell me if it is. Turron, what is the origin of this saying that came out, "Don't get me scolded"? Was that 100% correct? Can you talk to me about that and then come ask me what I think?
So I did see there was a report, I believe it was in a CBS article, that said a source close to Amy Adams Strunk her priority is a hire that won't get her scolded by the media.
Did you know anything about that, Turron?
I had not heard about that. I would have to check that story. I haven't heard about that. So that's a good reveal, Kenny.
Well,
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll take a big breath and wait till it's 100% sure. But that says it all. You know, I would have loved to have heard a quote, "Get me a great coach. I'm tired of losing. We got to do something to turn this around." And the quote that comes around is, "Don't make me look bad." You know, that says it all.
It does. Good one.
No, that's a good thought, Kenny. I heard DVD talking about that yesterday, and I really hope that's not the priority. Like, you shouldn't be making a decision for your football team with the media in mind. You want to do one that is going to help your football team win games. And, sometimes those aren't the same thing. Like, there have been plenty of hires across all of sports that the media and the fans say are horrible, and it ends up working, and vice versa. Plenty of times you say that's an A+ home run hire, and the guy flames out. So, you shouldn't be taking the media into effect when you're making these hires. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Appreciate everybody getting their questions in for Turron Davenport. If you want to send more in, we'll try and get to them throughout the show, but we are going to move on next. Paul Kaharski put out a list of other quarterbacks who had 55% completion percentage or lower through their first 6 starts. And I thought it was a very interesting group. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. The Commodores will take on LSU this Saturday. Pregame begins at 9:30 a.m. on 102.5 The Game with the kickoff at 11. Vanderbilt football brought to you by Gary Force Acura, Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse, and Smoky Mountain Tops. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game.
Vibes.
Next man up, 102.5. The Game tomorrow from noon to 3. Chase and Big Joe will be broadcasting live from Boston Commons in East Nashville, and we'll have some Preds tickets to give away. It's going to be an action-packed sports weekend in Nashville, topped by Mike Vrabel and the Patriots coming to town. So start your weekend off right and hang with Chase and Big Joe tomorrow at Boston Commons in East Nashville. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, halfway through the show on this Thursday. Appreciate everybody texting and calling for our Talk to TD segment. Coming up at 11, Andrew Allegretta will join us to talk some Vandy football. But I did see this from Paul Kuharsky earlier this week. Cam Ward has clearly not been good enough through his first 6 games. That is, I mean, you can watch him play and see the flashes of the talent that got him drafted first overall, but clearly the consistency has not been there. So Paul Kuharsky tweeted out, this was on Tuesday. He said, per StatHead, Cam Ward is just the 6th rookie starting quarterback since 2000 to have a completion percentage of 55 or less through his first 6 games. Here are the other 5. David Carr.
2 are good ones, though.
Yes. David Carr in 2000. Because you can look at Andrew Luck's stats. I went through and looked through 6 games. Not only the 53.6% completion percentage, but he had 10 turnovers through 6 games, 7 interceptions, 3 fumbles lost, and he was sacked 16 times. Cam Ward, 4 interceptions, 4 fumbles lost, 25 sacks.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be perfect through the first month and a half of a young quarterback's career.
That's the whole thing. I mean, it isn't going to be perfect. He's well aware of the turnovers. I asked him about the ball security, and he said that's something that he has to improve upon. So it's not like this is some wow moment or anything like that. I think you look at this, there's Carson Palmer's on there. I mean, guys progress at different phases. And I think when you look at Cam Ward and this situation that he's in, he's a guy just now learning how to swim and got thrown in the ocean that has a pretty strong current. So right now that man is just trying to stay above water.
Right.
And once he learns how to swim better and he could get to a little more calm water, he'll be okay. But right now it's surviving that part.
Right. What did he say in that the article that came out this week of once I learn how to play how I want to play, the league is going to be
on notice.
Blanked.
Yeah. That's exactly. And I think when you look at that, I personally think that this situation right now is good for him because I always there are various sayings that I live by, you know what I mean? And one of them that I always tell myself if I'm going through something is adversity makes the strong strong and the weak weaker. And I think Cam Ward is a strong person. And so I think this is going to make him stronger. And to go back to that analogy that I did about swimming, learning how to swim and being in the water where the current is strong. If you learn how to swim in the water when the current is strong, when you get to calmer waters, you're going to be a-okay, you know. And I think that is what a lot of people are hoping is the case with Cam Ward right now.
Right. And I think there's valid concerns about the stability for Cam Ward of he's now 2 play callers in. He's going to have 2 different head coaches this year and likely going to have a new head coach and new play caller next year. But this is a guy who he hasn't been shy to make changes in the past. I mean, 3 different colleges, lots of different coaches, and he's been able to adapt. You know, it remains to be seen how he is going to react to all of the turmoil that has happened through his rookie season. But you're right, like adversity does make the strong stronger. And if Cam Ward is a talented enough quarterback, he's going to find a way to get through what has been a chaotic first 2 months of his NFL career. 615-737-1025. For those of you who have let us know that we were off air, thank you. Yes, we had a little bit of technical difficulties back here. We are back and appreciate everyone letting us know. You know, we can't really tell here sometimes. You know, we see the mic still on, so you got to just go. But we are back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. And again, Andrew Allegretta from Vandy Football will be with us at 11 a.m. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Saturday's college football game of the week is number 14 Oklahoma versus South Carolina at 11:45 a.m. on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants and Circus Sportsbook Kentucky. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly finishing up our number 2 on this Thursday, and appreciate everybody hanging with us through some technical difficulties in the last segment. But we were going through some of the other quarterbacks who have struggled with accuracy and haven't had the best stats through their first 6 games in the NFL. For Cam Ward, it has to start to turn around because, I keep saying it's a small sample size. You can't judge the quarterback on just his first 6 games, but he has to start to show some progress. Now you've got Mike McCoy in place as the head coach. He said he's going to make some changes to help out this offense and help out Cam Ward, do some more things he's comfortable with. What do you want to see on Sunday from this offense to find some more consistency, find some more rhythm, and get Cam Ward in some more advantageous positions?
I think, as you said, you have Mike McCoy in place, supposed to help stabilize things for Cam Ward. So to me, when I look at this, I want to see the ball coming out quicker. Obviously, it's not going to just instantly happen, but here's the deal. Before the season started, there was a big push and conversation about, hey, the offense is going to be Cam Ward friendly and merged with some of the stuff that he did before.
Yep.
If I'm Mike McCoy, as soon as I got the job, my first call is to Eric Morris. My next call is to Randy Shannon. Hey, guys, listen, man, help me out here. What were some of the things? You know what I mean? And then I go back and I digest that, and I talk to Bo Hardigree. I talk to Nick Holtz. What can we do that we didn't do before?
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things that they haven't done before, RPOs. And I get now this is one of the things that Brian Callahan said that irritated me. Was he said, well, defenses do stuff to take it away. And I'm just like, hold on a second. The RPO situation is one of the ones where the defense is kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Right, as long as he's making the right read.
As long as he's making the right read, But there were some times where, the trajectory, it caused tip, and it just so happens that a few of his passes have been tipped and intercepted. So I get all that, but I still think you take the risk. I think what you also, and I asked McCoy about that, and he acted like I was asking him about state secrets. Obviously, you're not going to tell the game plan, but I'm just asking your thoughts on RPOs, right? So I think, given that, I think you might see some of that. I think you also will probably see more play action, roll in the pocket, because to me, if I'm Mike McCoy, I'm doing everything I can to keep this offense Cam friendly.
I agree. And you do want to develop the quarterback to be able to do some of the stuff that maybe he isn't as comfortable doing right now. But you also have to get him feeling good about the way he's playing. And again, you're not going to be able to run a college offense and hope that's going to work against NFL defenses. But you have to marry the two of doing things that Cam Ward feels comfortable with, that he's confident in accomplishing, while also getting him to do some of the stuff that maybe he isn't quite as good at right now.
Exactly. And I think that's the main thing, is just getting more out of him, finding a way.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We have a special caller, TD. Trey is on the line wanting to chime in. Trey, thanks for calling. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
What's up with
Great.
you? Hey, I just want to say, for me, I would like to see more progression in Cam Ward. I would like to see more of a passing completion rate that goes up. And I say that because, for me, for what I've seen on the field, as far as his play, is unacceptable, because I feel like that if you're given this type of opportunity to go out to represent one of 32 teams, you should be able to orchestrate yourself with dignity out there on the field, as far as, moving, being a systematic quarterback, doing things to help your team win. And just to be honest, I've had 5 different people from my neighborhood that's become champions in 4 different sports. And for what I see, it's unacceptable. You can't teach, like I was saying before, you can't teach footwork. That's something that has to be embedded in you at an early age. You know, things of that sort. But hey, y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Trey.
I always love his outros.
Hey,
man.
I mean, he is a signature caller on this station.
yeah.
Love it or hate it.
It is unacceptable.
Yes.
It's unacceptable.
But to say you can't teach footwork, you can teach footwork.
Yeah, that's a mechanics thing is something that can be tweaked and adjusted. And so that's one of the things Mike McCoy, they've kind of changed an individual period, the work, and Cam acknowledged that. So let's see how that it is. The thing is, when you have the footwork and the mechanics and all that stuff, it has to be ingrained to the point to where when you're in real fire, you resort back to that. Because what happens oftentimes is like the technique and stuff that you work on in practice and you work on in different situations, it ends up being thrown out the window when the stuff gets live. So I think that's the main thing.
Right. You know, bad habits are tough to break, but they're doing their best. And you can easily tell that Cam Ward has some bad habits. Like he fades in the pocket. He holds the ball for too long. I think that is the big thing that has gotten Cam Ward in trouble, is just not trusting what he's seeing and taking what he's given. The fumble, the last fumble was bad. He just dropped the ball. But the first fumble, he didn't really have a chance. Yeah, you got to hold on to the football, but it's not like he could have gotten the ball out there. Devin White was on him like that.
Right away.
So I'm not saying that he could have gotten the ball out there. You got to hold on to it. But the interception at the end of the half, that's the one that bothers me. When you're in field goal range and you want to be a little bit aggressive in that spot and see if maybe you can take a shot. But it's one of those things where you have to know situation and say, hey, we're in field goal range. The one thing I can't do is take a sack or turn it over. If I'm looking and don't see anything, get it out of bounds.
Yeah, let me get some points. Let's get some points. You know what I mean? And that's the maturation process of a quarterback. It's still yet to happen.
Let's go back to the phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Teddy is on the line. Teddy, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Great. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. Guys, so I called right now because of what's going on upstairs. And I think we are seeing what's going on upstairs affect the players in a certain way of decisions being made, coaching decisions, and all of that, And one thing I want to know is, our owner is not always around. She's not always around, but it can be a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing in the sense of leave the ones who you hire to do their job, and, stay out of that. But as of right now, I feel like what's going on in the ownership, it's bringing so much unnecessary attention to, the tie-ins, the owners, and all of this. And these are things we don't need right now. Right now, we're struggling on the field. Yeah, we are struggling on the field very much. But we also, too, have a quarterback that we have to develop at the end of the day, because that's our future. That's what we wasted the number one pick on. So what I want to see is Mike McCoy. And CD, you said something earlier that stuck out to me about, reaching out to old coaches like, what did Cam like? What do you guys think about, trying to get some knowledge from that aspect of things. And my last thing that I want to say before I get off the phone, man, look, Tyler Lockett, we've seen enough of Tyler Lockett, man. Y'all give Restrepo a chance. He deserves a chance. Give Rex a chance, man. He can't be no bad.
That's
Thanks
great
for the call, Teddy.
I saw Teddy on there. I thought, that was Teddy Pendergrass calling from heaven after turning the lights out. You know what I mean? But no, he's right. I think when you look at this, it's just too much stuff going on. Like, they got to find a way to rein it in and get the focus on football. Amy Adams Strunk not being here. I mean, she wasn't here for Callahan's introductory press conference.
Right.
You know what I mean? But her absence, it does say a lot. But at the same time, you want to own it. Just as Teddy mentioned, let the guys you're paying do the job. In my opinion, I'm going to just say this. I think, yes, Chad Brinker, final say, man, let Borgonzi go ahead and do let him do the job.
I think a lot of people have been saying that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let Mike Borgonzi do the job.
Let Borgonzi be the GM. And you asked the question, who's going to hire the head coach? They said that Brinker and Borgonzi are going to lead the search. I would like to see Borgonzi get a chance to hire the head coach. And maybe Brinker can have some input, but let Borgonzi be the guy who goes out and picks his guy.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the direction Brinker is going to go. But in my opinion, he needs to come out and say it.
This is Mike's call.
We're going to put him in charge of this.
Which for Chad Brinker can keep doing what he's been doing and take the blame off himself if it goes wrong. And with the Amy stuff, like, yes, we haven't heard from Amy since Mike Vrabel got fired. And that was the interview with Mike Keith, just about the direction of the franchise. Mm-hmm. She's made only two firing since then. And I don't want people out there saying because we're saying there's dysfunction. That doesn't mean she shouldn't have fired Brian Callahan. Like, Brian Callahan deserved to be fired. It's the fact that you fired two guys who, despite their faults, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, were not good at the end of their tenure. But they were competent guys in their jobs. They knew that what they were doing. And you hired two guys who didn't even make it through 2 calendar years in their positions because they weren't doing those things that Robinson and Vrabel did. It's not about the firing. It's about finding some stability. You hope that this next head coach can finally bring that to this franchise.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. That's fair.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'll take them for the remainder of the show. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, Andrew Allegretta from Vanderbilt Football going to join us for his weekly visit to preview the Commodores and the LSU Tigers on Saturday at First Bank Stadium. We'll talk to Andrew coming up next here on Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. What the hell are we posting on Instagram?
Oh, boy.
Next man up, 102.5, the game final hour on this Thursday. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We start our 11 a.m. hour, as we always do on Thursdays, by going to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, to speak with the voice of Vanderbilt football, Andrew Allegretta. Andrew, as always, thanks for coming on. How's it going today?
I'm doing well. What's going on with you guys?
Not a ton. It's been a quiet week around here, Andrew, as I'm sure you've heard.
You guys.
Well, Andrew, the Vanderbilt coming back from the bye week, taking on LSU. I heard you mention it on the broadcast a couple weeks ago about how Vanderbilt got the latest open week, at least their first open week of the season. Did it feel like this was necessary and a good reset for this team heading into the back half of the schedule?
Well, I think it was super necessary to get the bye week. The question is, how do you come out of the bye week and perform? Talking with Clark a bunch throughout the course of the week, he feels like, again, it's just a super mature team. He doesn't worry necessarily about how to take care of their business and all of that sort of stuff. I think they will handle the bye week pretty well. I think they'll take care of their business. They'll practice as they did throughout the course of this week and be just fine. But you still have to kind of knock off the rust, quote unquote. But hopefully they come out flying pretty good on Saturday.
Well, you got LSU coming into town, who LSU came off their bye week and was able to beat South Carolina, a top 10 team in the country, but maybe a team that looks more vulnerable than they did at the beginning of the year. How do you think Vanderbilt stacks up with a Tigers team that has struggled on the offensive side of the ball at the very least this season?
Yeah, it's a really interesting matchup, Jake. I think there's plenty of skill out there for LSU that certainly could make life difficult for Vanderbilt. I'm really curious about a couple of things. First off, Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, has been a challenge for Vanderbilt in 3 previous meetings, twice at Missouri, once at LSU a season ago. I think they're averaging like 17 points per game in those 3 contests. Obviously, this offense is a little bit better for Vanderbilt than the previous couple of seasons, but he's a difficult defensive coordinator. I mean, he's going to try to tee off on you. He sends like 6 guys after the quarterbacks and into the backfield on like 40% of the snaps, somewhere in that territory. So they're going to have to handle that. And whether that's kind of beating the rush with Diego Pavia's legs with some quick throws out to the wide receiver, some quick slants, screen game, I don't know. We'll see exactly how they kind of go about that. But that's one thing that I think is really compelling about this. And then the second is going to be Nussmeier. He's a guy that certainly could end up a first-round NFL draft pick. We'll see. But it feels like, and I don't want to kind of get into their training room too much, but he's obviously dealt with some bumps and bruises this season. And how does he come out firing against the defensive line in Vanderbilt that was able to sack Ty Simpson 4 times with defensive linemen, not by linebackers, not by safeties, not by corners, defensive linemen. So those are a couple of matchups that are going to be really interesting and I think could sway the course of this game.
Obviously, the Bama loss was a tough one, but bouncing back and getting a win over LSU, what do you think that would say about this program and how far they've come along?
TD, I think it would just say that we're in the mix. I think we've kind of acknowledged the fact that Vanderbilt's going to be a tough out, if not a very competitive winning team throughout the course of the season so far, but you still have to go and execute those games, right? It would be nice to kind of turn the page from perhaps Vanderbilt being a plucky upstart to a team that's just going to stick around throughout the course of October and November. I think for the most part, we have kind of turned the page on that narrative, but you do again have to execute and get the wins to stay part of the conversation. They've been ranked in the top 25 for 5 consecutive weeks. So I think for the most part, people are believing that Vanderbilt is what we have put on film throughout the course of 6 games so far. But, every game, TD, is kind of its own little mini story. They connect to each other in an extent, but they also don't, right? Like, you can go execute on one Saturday and then not execute on the next Saturday. How much of that is your opponent? Certainly some of it is, but not all of it is. So they do have to continue to execute and perform well to make sure that they stay part of the conversation. I don't know that this team is really wrapped up in what wins and losses say about Vanderbilt football anymore. I think the team is just kind of saying, like, we believe we're here to stay, so the job is to go out and win this Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. And they shouldn't be caught up in that. I was curious what your thoughts were on that. But you look at you talk about games being connected, but not being connected at the same time. I mean, this game, then you got Missouri, you got Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, then Tennessee. Like, this is a pretty intriguing stretch coming up. So how do you think this team is built to handle what's on the menu for the rest of this year as they look to climb into that bowl contention status?
I honestly think this week will tell us a lot about that. I do. One of the things that we have believed, TD, is the way that they've been able to construct this roster and take snaps off of guys in the month of September, setting them up for October and November will pay dividends. That's been the strategy. But now you're in October and now you're going to be in November. So your strategy then has to pay off. Like, Diego Pavia ran the football in the first game versus Virginia Tech a season ago like 22, 23 times. Like, that's not been the recipe for them so far this season, which means he's taken less hits through the month of September, which then should matter for October and November. They've been able to rotate the defensive line more. They've taken hits off of some of those guys. That should help them in October and November. So, the stretch is difficult. I'm curious to see, and I suspect the case is that it will benefit them, but the strategy was to take hits off of guys by providing depth at critical spots. And, now is when rubber meets the road.
Andrew, I think one of the things I'm most interested to see on Saturday is what the crowd looks like. And I know you're probably just as intrigued to see as well, because this Vandy fan base really has rallied around this team over the last 2 seasons. And you've seen a whole lot of black and gold filling that stadium so far this year. But you look at LSU, that is a fan base that travels well no matter where they go, and you factor in the tourist destination that Nashville is. How much of a factor could the crowd play on Saturday? I know Clark Lee put out kind of a call to action for Vandy fans to fill that stadium up, because LSU fans are known to take over whatever stadium they go to.
Yeah. I think it's a call to action, and I think we all want it because of the pride that we feel in black and gold, the pride that we feel in the investment that we've put into the football program, the upgrades to the north and south end zone. Like, we've internally, and Clark certainly leading the charge, and Chancellor Diermeyer and Candace have all kind of invested into the program, and we love this community. So we want it to show up and rally around all of the student athletes and everybody that's invested, and be part of a community that we can feel prideful in every single Saturday. Clark's talked about that. How much of a factor? I don't know. They beat Alabama at home last year with a decidedly Alabama crowd. They beat Virginia Tech at home last year with a decidedly Virginia Tech crowd. Things have been way better here this season, which is great. But one of the things, and this is just, I guess, the Vandy guy talking, but I'll shoot straight with you. I think one of the things that feels a little bit queasy on our end sometimes, and to an extent it is deserved, and I get that, but like the narrative about other teams taking over stadiums is often directed at Vanderbilt. I mean, like, the Preds deal with that when the Blackhawks come to town or the Rangers come to town. or whoever.
The Titans will see it this weekend.
Yeah, the Titans are going to deal with it this weekend with the Patriots. So it's not an exclusively Vanderbilt thing. Like, we are a tourist town, which is great.
Right.
And we love the fact that that elevates the economy and all of that sort of stuff. So, from a Vanderbilt perspective, I get the genesis of the question, but sometimes I kind of want to step back and go like, everybody else in this market deals with it too. It's not just us. I get why it's a little bit grander for us because of the way some of these fan bases travel. Tennessee kind of being right here and them kind of taking over that east side, and Georgia. I mean, I get it. I'm not naive to it, but I don't know. I've been prideful in the way Vanderbilt fans have stepped up here this year, and we've seen great crowds for Charleston Southern or for Utah State or for Georgia State. What the crowd looks like, I don't know. I want to see the boys go play football on Saturday.
Yeah, now you make a great point. This is a destination city, so you're always going to have an influx of the opposing team's fans. That's spot on. I'm curious because we talked about Jordan Matthews last week. I'm just curious how you've seen him kind of get himself into the mix in this short period of time.
Yeah, so I actually have stuff I can talk about because we talked to him back on Monday. He told us openly, like, he had a lot of different things he could have gone and done. This is the former NFL receiver, Jordan Matthews, not the current cornerback that Vanderbilt has, Jordan Matthews. But he had other opportunities. You can tell that the community and what Clark is doing and the black and gold matters to him. He wants to be, and you see this from a lot of former players, he wants to be a resource for the guys. So he has been around constantly, obviously throughout the course of the season, but now in a more formalized role as someone that is just a resource 24/7, specifically for the receivers, because that has been his position. But he wants, it can be a lonely position sometimes. Say you blow out your ACL and you're stuck on the sideline and you don't feel like anybody in your current circle understands what you're going through. Well, you've got somebody in Jordan Matthews. I'm not saying that exact situation, but you've got somebody that can relate to you as someone that has gone through it before. It basically becomes an older brother sort of situation, which is really significant. Shea Ralph is the women's basketball coach at Vanderbilt. She dealt with her own injuries, and she had Jordan Cambridge on the roster, and she could really bond with Jordan having gone through the same injuries. When you have somebody on the staff that can really create that sort of understanding for football players and help them move through it and be humans and not just robots out there playing football, that's really important. So that's how he sees himself, as well as some X's and O's, offensive consultant sort of stuff, like as a positive there. But man, he's a jubilant guy. He brings a lot of energy on the practice field, and you just get the sense that, like, that's your older brother, Jordan Matthews, and he's gonna help you understand the path that you're walking.
Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football. You can catch Andrew with Kevin Ingram, Norman Jordan on the call, 9:30 pregame, 11 a.m. kickoff against LSU on Saturday. Andrew, appreciate your time. We'll talk to you on Saturday morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Commodores. Vandy looking for a 6-1 start with a win over a top 10 LSU team at home coming off the bye week. We'll react to what Andrew had to say coming up next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. We got the Monday Night Football intro. Fun fact, part of the video for that was filmed inside Memorial Gym on Vanderbilt's campus.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
one of the little tunnels back there. They filmed Chris Stapleton. At least that's what I've been told. I mean, I might have to fact check myself there, but yeah, Chris Stapleton. There's a video. The part of the video, the hype song, like he's walking down a hallway, and that's inside Memorial. Speaking of Vanderbilt, Andrew Allegretta was just with us in the last segment. Great stuff from Andrew as the Commodores take on LSU on Saturday. That is an 11 a.m. kick on ABC News 2 here in Nashville. So make sure you tune in there. You can tune in right here on 102.5 The Game as well. Looking at this Vanderbilt team, they're coming off the bye week, and TD, not enough is being made about how this team is favored over LSU. Like, this is a Vandy team that 50-plus SEC games in a row, they've been the underdog. And not only are they favored this week, they're favored against a top 10 LSU team.
Tells you where the program is right now. So I think when you look at that, like I asked Andrew, you look at this is a start of a tough stretch, and a win in this game could launch them. You stack momentum from week to week, you know what I mean? And this is one of the ones where it could, walking around campus and working through practice with a victory over a top 10 team, it does a lot.
Right. And it puts you in kind of the driver's seat moving forward. With Missouri's a tough team coming in next week, but that's a team that I think you'd be favored against as well, depending on how, if you do win this week against LSU, I think you'd be favored. Then you got to go to Texas. I think that Texas game that could be the turning point for Vanderbilt, because you look at Auburn and Kentucky, not saying either of them are pushovers, but like compared to the other teams on your schedule, they aren't quite as formidable as an LSU, a Missouri, a Tennessee. So that Texas game, that could be the difference between being 9-2 heading into Tennessee or 8-3. And there's a big difference there, because a 3-loss Vandy team, I think you're still on the bubble of the college football playoff instead of firmly inside, which you would be at 10-2.
Yeah, and a victory over that top 10, like that will help a whole lot. You know what I mean? It would definitely help them as far as you're talking about, as far as the strength of schedule, the strength of your victories. That's a significant win for them.
Right. And Texas, I understand it's not the preseason number 1 Texas that we thought of them coming into the year, but they did just get a huge win against their rival in Oklahoma with their backs against the wall. Like Penn State and Texas, we talked about it last week, of those teams did not have any room for error to lose again if they wanted to make the playoffs. And of course, Penn State lost to Northwestern, James Franklin out the door. Texas did answer the call, and they got the win against Oklahoma. Their schedule isn't as difficult as a lot of other teams across the SEC. Like when you look at the ranked games they've got left, they have Vanderbilt at home, they go to Georgia, and they've got A&M. But it's not like they're playing 4 or 5 straight ranked teams. Like South Carolina's schedule is just a gauntlet. So this is a Texas team that, hey, they just beat Oklahoma. They got Kentucky and Mississippi State the next couple of games. That's a team that could be 6-2 and hitting their stride when Vandy plays them. Could end up looking like a lot more important win than maybe you're looking at it as right now.
Yeah, and like to me, that LSU one, get that first, right? And that one, that's a notch.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you got Missouri next week, and then you got Texas. But I think when you look at, like, if they could get wins in those 3 games, like that really is good for their schedule. The thing I like about this weekend, though, you got the Pearl Cone graduate coming back,
Barry Brown,
who he has that easy speed. So I'm looking forward to watching that game.
Yeah, going to be a good one. And as Andrew said, I think we're going to learn a lot about what this Vanderbilt team is after this week. Quickly on Tennessee, they've got a big game this weekend too, down in Tuscaloosa, 3rd Saturday in October. Kind of in a similar spot to Vandy. You've got 1 loss on the year. This is a statement game that you can go and put yourself firmly in the playoff conversation. Tennessee's only loss was, 3-point overtime loss against Georgia. Alabama's playing some great football this year, at least over the last couple of weeks. That's going to be a heck of a game down in Tuscaloosa, and Tennessee has a chance to put themselves right in the national spotlight with a win.
Yeah, and I think when you look at that, going down there and getting that win, obviously this isn't Nick Saban's Crimson Tide, but still it is a group that is very talented, and going in there and getting a win there in a tough place to play, that would do volumes for them. And imagine, and that's the thing that so you got Vandy, Tennessee to end the year.
Yeah.
Imagine they both go in there with one loss, right?
Or
And
even two. Because
even,
if each of them have two, one of them, if you're 10-2, you're getting in.
That's what I'm saying. Same record. Imagine the way that game would be viewed and looked upon. And I think when you look at that, Tennessee getting that win in Alabama, something that Vanderbilt couldn't do, that gives them, a bit of an advantage. But you play the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing that one at the end. But in the meantime, I think when you look at Tennessee, they are a team that they could go in there and win that game. Absolutely, because I think they are talented. I really like Brew McCoy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A big time playmaker. So, and he and Aguilar, if they could connect early and make some things happen, it'd be big.
Yeah, Chris Brazel's been great this year for Tennessee. So lots to like on the college football slate this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even mention Georgia and Ole Miss playing. You've got tons of huge SEC matchups this week, and also Notre Dame USC. Like that's an elimination game for both those teams, I think, in terms of the playoffs. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Well, we got a couple of minutes here. Speaking of Notre Dame, Corey Curtis brought up Marcus Freeman as a possible name for the Titans coaching job. Would that make sense to you, or is there any college coaches that you'd think of bringing in, or does it kind of have to be an NFL guy?
I think this organization, because of how rudderless it is, they need someone who you instantly know, okay, this is what you're getting. And you do know that with Marcus Freeman, but they need someone who is like, this is what you're getting NFL-wise.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's important to get someone that has been there and done it before.
I agree. But I do think if you did look at the college ranks, Freeman surely would be at the top of that list with maybe a Dan Lanning and Ryan Day. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. You want somebody who's done it before at that spot. And that's why the names we've been bringing up, Mike McCarthy, Arthur Smith, Jim Schwartz, Matt Nagy, all those guys have head coaching experience across the NFL. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts and comments, your questions on our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, we'll get back into the Titans. Let's talk about the elephant in the room coming up next. Mike Vrabel making his return to Nashville on Sunday. How bad could this get in Nissan Stadium on Sunday? And TD talked with some of the players yesterday, Tajay Spears, Amani Hooker, about their feelings having their former coach coming back to play them on the other sideline. We'll get into it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final 30 minutes on this Thursday. Been a fun show. Turron Davenport in with us as he is every Thursday. Chasing Big Joe coming up at the top of the hour. Don't forget, tomorrow, Max Hers will be with us from 9 to 10. From Preds Radio, Preds playing tonight, taking on Montreal for Game 3 of their 4-game Canadian road trip. So we'll get the lowdown on all things Preds and how they've done so far up in the Great White North. A win on Monday over Ottawa, a loss, their first regulation loss of the season to Toronto on Tuesday. Back into the Titans here, TD. The big story this week, of course, is Brian Callahan being fired, but it's kind of overshadowing what we thought was going to be the overarching storyline of the week. Mike Vrabel returning to Nashville, and he did a Zoom with Nashville media yesterday, and one of the funniest ones was, "Do you have any mementos from your time in Nashville?" He says, "No, but the Goodwill on 8th Avenue might." So Mike Vrabel coming back to town. I'm sure that he is going to want to win this game and win it in large fashion.
Yeah.
But what's this going to be like for the Titans, the players, seeing Mike Vrabel on the other sidelines for the first time?
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really cool situation. And obviously, these guys, a lot of them, they have connection to Mike Vrabel for various reasons. And I think when you look at some of the guys, Tajay Spears, he's looking forward to going and seeing Mike Vrabel. They connected on a level in regards to mental health and things like that. So being able to go back, and Vrabel's the guy that drafted him. He was pretty well behind that, so you have that, Amani Hooker, Jeffrey Simmons. I love Simmons' comments, where he was like, the relationship, he couldn't care less about it on Sunday. And these guys, they know that it's going to be a dogfight. There's a total of 14 guys on the roster.
Right.
10 on the 53-man, 2 practice squad, and 2 on IR. And so when you look at that, there's a good portion of this team that has familiarity with Mike Vrabel, and I guarantee you all of those guys are looking forward to seeing him. But once the whistle, once the kickoff is that's out the window. They are playing football. That's their job. That's their passion. That's what they're going to do.
And this is a Patriots team that's playing good football right now. They just beat the Bills a couple of weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, ended their chance at an undefeated season early on. They beat the Saints last week. I did want to get your thoughts on this, because the Saints and it's one game. It doesn't mean this is the perfect way to attack this Patriots defense, but it's a Patriots defense that's stout up front with Christian Barmore, Milton Williams in the middle. First play of the game for the Saints against the Patriots was a deep shot to Chris Olave down the sidelines. Christian Gonzalez is a really good cornerback. Do you think the Titans maybe do try and take a shot early? Although we'll say Calvin Ridley may not be on the field on Sunday.
Yeah, well, why not look at your slot receiver? You know what I mean? And go 11 personnel, play action, right? And boot and find him on a crossing route. Only been calling for this for the last 3 weeks, right? To start the game with a play action.
We've been
pass.
saying this every single week.
Do it. And every single week we say that they start the game with a run. So how much better could it be set up to do that? So, I mean, yeah, you're right. Me personally, I don't know that I go at Christian Gonzalez with this group of receivers that are there, but still, I think you could go at others. Now, that's Marcus Jones is a good nickel corner.
There's good players.
We're not going to act like he's not. So, I mean, this is a young but talented roster.
Yes, and the Patriots, they are 4-2. Drake May seems to be coming into his own. I don't see this going well for the Titans on Sunday. Like, the final score is probably not going to be pretty, and I don't know if Mike Vrabel is going to call the dogs off if they're up 20 late. I mean, I think he wants to run this thing up. But what you want to see is a product that looks better, right? Like, you want to see this Titans offense put together 2 or 3 drives where the offense looks capable. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but they haven't been able to do it. Go put together a couple drives early, maybe a drive late, where the offense is moving the football consistently and you can get into the end zone, because that just hasn't been easy for this team so far.
It has not been easy at all. And I think that's the key, is showing some type of flow on offense, some type of rhythm, and it's major to do that. And that helps the defense also, because the defense, if you watch the games, they're not that bad. But it's just one of those things where the water just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting, and it just gradually erodes the surface. The next thing you know, the dam breaks and a touchdown happens. And that's what this defense continues to deal with.
Yeah, the defense overall, I think outside of the Colts game, has not been bad. The Colts game was their worst game, but look at the Texans game. They had that game 6-0, and the L'Jarius Sneed 2nd and 33 kind of broke the dam, like you said, and opened up the floodgates. Same thing in Arizona. They gave up a couple of early scores, but they settled in, kept the team in the game. Got some help, of course.
Right.
And the Raiders game, Cam Ward handed them 7 points there. If he doesn't do that, it's 3-0 heading into the locker room at halftime. So the defense has been fine. If they can slow down Drake May, and Stephon Diggs has started to look more like the Stephon Diggs of old, if they can slow down that Patriots offense and give your offense a chance, maybe they can keep this close.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not counting on it. Ben on our text line says, best case scenario, we lose 55-6. Best case.
Dang.
I think actually, I will say, I think he's saying that that's what he wants because he wants Amy to be humiliated. I heard Chase and Big Joe. This was their question of the day yesterday. Would you be on the side of wanting the Titans to go win and beat Vrabel on Sunday or get absolutely blown out by Vrabel? For me, they already fired the head coach. No more change is coming. You'd like to see progress and see this team at least be competitive. They're not going to win the game, but I'd like to see them be competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all you can ask for, see them be competitive. And it's gotten bad to the point where I could see fans like, hey, lose the rest of them for draft status. So
I think Vrabel's going to get a big cheer on Sunday. There's going to be a lot of Patriots fans there, but I would guess a lot of the Titans fans are going to cheer him too.
No tribute.
No tribute. We've been talking about it all week. No tribute. I question whether it's deserved. He did do a lot when he was here, but I don't disagree with the decision not to do it.
No, I don't disagree.
Especially based on where the Titans franchise is now. If Brian Callahan was the guy and they were 4-2 as well right now, I think you do it. Yeah. Honestly, to be like, hey, guess what? We've moved on and we're in a good spot too. But with the way the franchise has trended since he left, I kind of agree with the decision not to do it.
No, absolutely.
Harold Landry should get one though.
Yeah,
maybe not a full tribute video, but at least thank you, Harold.
Show him on a returning to Nissan Stadium, Harold Landry.
Yeah, get a big cheer. Yeah. I think that's all though. But Mike Vrabel, at the very least, Brian Callahan won't be booed on Sunday, and I guess Mike McCoy might get himself a little cheer when he comes into the stadium.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I hope the Titans show up on Sunday. Have a little bit of pride and go out and see if you can make this a game heading into the fourth quarter. I'm not counting on it, but I'd love to see some progress because it does seem like this team has been moving in reverse for the last month. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Last call for phones. We'll get to your text coming up next and get out of here on this Thursday. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Finishing up the show on this Thursday. Next man up, 102.5. The Game, Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Chasing Big Joe coming up next at the top of the hour from the Omni Nashville Hotel. Preds play tonight, 5 o'clock pregame, 6 o'clock puck drop from Montreal. And Max Hers will be with us tomorrow morning from 9 to 10 on the program. Do want to mention, Max just put out the Preds morning skate lines in Montreal and a new top line for the Preds. Phil Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos. Looks like they'll get the run at the top line. Brady Martin out again based on these lines. And it is going to be Joe Svechkov and Evangelista on the second line. So excited to watch some hockey tonight. Let's get back to some of your texts here before we get out of here. Thomas on a car phone says, Jake and TD, I am ready to catch the strep. At this point, they have nothing to lose. Maybe it helps Cam get comfortable out there having a target he knows. And on a side note, he wants to know, TD, what kicks are you wearing today? He says, I'm an avid shoe collector too. He has a lot of special edition J's. So what you got on today?
I got some Jordan 5s, you know what I mean? I'll show you.
Yeah, there we go. If we're on the stream.
Yeah, put it on there, you know what I mean? Got these right here. 5s are quietly becoming one of my favorite shoes. I actually bought another pair on Saturday. The ones with the cream and the pink.
Oh,
sick. I may throw them on this weekend. We'll see.
Bought them in Las Vegas?
No, you know what? I almost did buy them in Vegas. I was on the plane and I want them on sneakers. So on the sneakers app, I was able to get them there. But yeah,
I love it. So you're thinking you might pull those out for Sunday?
I think so. I got a pink blazer, and I got to put the outfit together. I just want to see, Vrabel's coming to town, and the whole crew.
Got to be dressed to the nines.
Well, it's not that. It's just like I want. They know how I bring it, so
right.
I want to keep it going.
That is true.
It's an extra special occasion, though.
Yeah,
I will also be dressed to the nines. Hopefully,
there you go.
Hopefully,
I will probably not. I might be in the stands on Sunday. We'll see.
Okay.
I have not bought tickets. But considering making a trip down there since this is my last real chance to go see a game at the stadium this year. Because once women's basketball season starts, we have games most Sundays, so it makes it tough. So I'm considering it. We'll see. Before we wrap up, Thursday Night Football tonight, and what a battle of quarterbacks we have. Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. Who would have thought? 40 and 41 years old going at it tonight. And Aaron Rodgers has the Steelers off to a really good start this year. Flacco in his second game with the Bengals. Maybe not your marquee primetime matchup, but at least some intrigue between these two teams on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, there's going to be some intrigue. And I mean, I was looking at numbers the other night. Cam Ward has more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I mean, it's crazy to think that because, again, they're what, 4-1? Because they already had their bye week?
They're just playing efficient football, man.
Only 1,000 yards. Has he not thrown the football very often? I mean, he's throwing it 20, 30 times a game, but he's averaging 7.4 yards per attempt. Maybe Cam Ward's just throwing the ball a lot more than I thought. But yeah, you are correct. 1,021 yards for Aaron Rodgers on 68% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I guess maybe the yards per attempt is better for Aaron Rodgers because, he's completing more of his passes,
Whatever's
I can do a little math in my head there. But yeah, should be a fun one tonight. The Steelers, I never doubt Mike Tomlin because every year he somehow finds his way into the mix, but they're running away with this division with the way the Ravens have started. Baltimore's on a bye week this week, but they're 1-5. And, at 1-5, no matter how talented your team is, it's tough to dig yourself out of that hole. And their schedule does ease up after what's been a brutal start. But it's gotten to the point where you keep thinking, oh, eventually they're going to get there. Eventually they're going to get there. And now they're 3.5 games back of the division. And I don't know if even Lamar Jackson is going to be able to climb that hill to get back to the top of the division.
The good thing is they'll have 2 more, games against them. So
that is true.
That's
a quick way to come back.
Quick way to come up. So we'll see what happens there. I want to say something. Earlier I said Brew McCoy.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. That's a crossover in my brain. Like I'm sitting here.
You got Mike McCoy on the mind.
Mike McCoy, and I was looking at something with Mike McCoy, and that name came up. So my apologies. Great save there. that shifted to
Chris Brazzell.
Yeah.
But hey, Brew McCoy, good wide receiver in his own right.
He was, yes. For them.
Wrapping up the show, we've got Mike McCoy making his debut as the interim head coach, and the interim bump. How much do you give credit to that when it does happen of like, hey, they fired the coach, whether it's a new voice in the room that's able to rally the guys, or maybe just the wake up call for accountability? How much credit do you give an interim bump that maybe we could see on Sunday?
Yeah, I think if it's the right interim, I think for both sides. I've seen it before. I remember Mike Singletary took over for Mike Nolan and this team. Like they had a good stretch. He got named the head coach. The guys went crazy. It didn't work out.
Right.
But, and then you look more recently with Antonio Pierce. He took over and they gained some respectability. He got the job and, they had to hit the reset button there. So for the temporary part of it, yeah, it's cool. It's kind of like an energy drink. Like it gives you a temporary, but, in the long run, too much of it is probably not good for you.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, that's the way
it can give you a little boost for one game, but for the rest of the season, it's not going to change all that much for the long haul. I will say Mike Mularkey did win his first game as the interim head coach when he took over for Ken Wisenhunt down in New Orleans, won in overtime over Drew Brees and the Saints. That was, I want to say that's the game where Marcus Mariota threw a ball into double coverage. It bounced off a DB's helmet, and Delaney Walker caught it and ran the rest of the way to the end zone.
Yeah, a little luck helps you along the way, too.
Right. I mean, we saw it when you're a bad team. Luck is kind of what you need to win some of these games. And that one went to overtime. Parker, you might be able to help me out here. Were you around for that TD when Mularkey was the interim? No, you weren't. Was it Anthony Fasano who caught the game-winning touchdown in that game?
Which game was this?
The Saints-Titans game. Mularkey's first game as the interim head coach. In overtime, they were at the goal line, and they ran kind of like the boot throwback with Marcus, and he threw it back over.
I don't know off the top of my head. I want to
say it was Anthony Fasano. Complete tangent to end the show. Titans Saints, this was in 2015. I got to say it. So, 34-28 was the final. Marcus Mariota got his second career win. His first one was the 4-touchdown game.
Yes, it was Anthony Fasano.
It was Anthony Fasano. So, Delaney Walker had 2 touchdown catches in that game. Justin Hunter caught the game-tying touchdown with 7 minutes left. Walker had that 61-yard catch off the helmet of the defensive back to get into the end zone. But Anthony Fasano, 5-yard pass for Marcus Mariota. Heck of a game. Maybe we'll see Mike McCoy. Mike M is the interim head coach. Can they get a win in their first game as the head coach of the Titans?
We'll see.
Not likely. I think it's going to be a tougher test on Sunday than what they saw down there in the Big Easy. TD, always appreciate you coming on. We'll do it again next week.
For sure. Appreciate you.
Again, Max Hers going to be with us from 9 to 10 tomorrow. Going to talk all things Predators. Predators taking on Montreal tonight. 5 p.m. pregame, 6 o'clock puck drop. And again, we'll get everything from Max Hers about how the Predators have done through the first 3 games of their road trip. Connor Newt will then be in from 10 to 12. We'll get you ready for the football weekend. Plenty to get ready for college football. And, of course, the Titans welcoming Mike Vrabel back to Nissan Stadium on Sunday. That will do it for us. For Turron Davenport and Parker Kelly, I'm Jake Lyman signing off. Chasing Big Joe coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.